Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more interesting stories like these. Now, let's get into today's story video. AITA I did not send my ex-fiancee's belongings to her. Vanessa forgot to show up for my wedding, which took place 3 months ago. I was taken aback when she just did not present at the altar despite the fact that she had made no mention of any difficulties. We had been sharing a rented flat for the previous year. I attempted to contact her and her parents' phones, but they all refused to accept my calls, so I gave up and left the apartment after paying my share of the rent. In addition, the apartment owner requested that I remove her belongings as well. However, I denied and urged him to contact her directly, providing him with her and her family's phone numbers and address as well. I also instructed him not to share my new contact information with my ex-girlfriend or any of her family members. After that, I moved to a different city and rented a studio apartment for the duration of my stay. Soon after, my previous apartment manager called to inform me that he had tried to contact her but had been unable to do so, and that he had therefore left all of her belongings at the police station. My ex-boyfriend came up to my parents' home a week ago and learned that I was staying there. She was angry with me because I had left her belongings at the apartment without notifying her. According to sources, the apartment owner filed a lawsuit against her for failure to pay rent and for neglecting to communicate with him or her. In order to make apologies, she was had to pay a substantial quantity of money. Her goods were returned after I advised her that she should not have blocked me if she was serious about having them back. According to close friends, she's now making a big deal about me on her social media platforms. Perhaps I should have attempted to contact her more often before leaving her belongings at the location in order to prevent being sued by the property owners. AITA. Story 2. What do if I don't tell my brother his wife cheated on him? So here's a little background information. My brother and his wife were married a year ago, and since then, my sister-in-law and I have grown into real best friends. My sister confides in me about all of her secrets, and my brother and I have a similar closeness in this regard. The two of them are swingers, and he's previously had with females, and she's allowed with others as well. Aside from notifying the other party of their presence and asking whether it is acceptable, there is no further necessity. As a result, my sister is now going to the gym and conversing with the personal trainer there, and they're spending time outside the gym in a park or the beach. My brother proceeded to question her about whether or not she liked him as a person rather than simply a friend, but she said that she did not. However, after she met him, he got possessive of her and refused to allow her to hang out with him for long periods of time. As a result of their disagreement, he ultimately decides to let her hang out with him. In she initially met him. It's been 4 weeks. Last night, while out with friends, she revealed that she kissed him and that he had given her an oral once. In addition, she counseled me not to say anything since I was drunk, so I returned home with them when he picked us up and took us to our respective homes. When my wife and I were getting ready to leave the house this morning, we spoke for over an hour. When she gets to this point, she starts talking about how she feels terrible about it, but not because she did it, but because she doesn't feel awful about it. She talks of feeling trapped in a toxic relationship, and how despite the fact that she loves him with all her heart, she doesn't find him attractive since he's been unhappy and angry recently, which is why she decided to do it without telling my brother first. I was attempting to comprehend the situation in the manner of a friend, and I advised her to talk with him about it and engage in a serious discourse. He starts to cry or mentally retreat from the conversation, she says, stating that there is no sense in what she's trying to say. Because there is no other alternative, I tell her she has no choice but to comply, and she agrees to do so when she gets back home. I'm fairly positive she won't talk about her affair with him, since doing so would ruin his self-esteem and cause him to be much more depressed than he already is. After a few hours of contemplation, I feel compelled to tell her how much guilt I'm experiencing and how it is causing my asthma to flare up once again. My chest feels like it's crushing itself as I think about it, since they are two of my favorite people in the entire world. I don't want to choose between them, but what if I don't tell my brother right away and try to get her to understand her blunder and confess herself, because I believe it will be easier to repair their relationship if she admits, rather than if I tell him. It is okay for me to put my relationship with my brother in jeopardy if it means that they can reconcile and stay together. Story 3. AITA for not telling a man, standing right in front of me, that his wife cheated on him with someone I know. Julian arrived home after 9 months of dating me with the statement, "Wow, my buddy Riley is a total." I was taken aback. A coworker's wife has been abused, and he has now informed me that he will be prosecuting the perpetrator. While Riley, Julian, and Josh are all members of the same band, the three of them play as a trio. Julian and Josh told Riley that they felt he was being stupid, that they didn't back him, and that if his colleague finds out, they would not be there to help him. With this in mind, Riley continues to harp on the wife of a coworker for a few months before cutting off all ties with her completely. The fact that I've never met coworker or coworker's wife, whose names I'm unfamiliar with, means that this isn't really relevant to my life in any way. The cycle of life is unending and will continue endlessly. As a consequence, we all made the decision to relocate to another state. It wasn't until late May of this year that Julian and I were finally able to move into our apartment and feel at home there. It took Riley and Josh only one day to move from New York to Los Angeles in late July, with the help of Riley's mother and the wife of Riley's colleague who came along for the voyage. It wasn't until they came and I assisted them in moving into their 2BDs, one-bath apartment that I realized who they were, the coworker's wife and her husband. Her husband's colleague, Riley's coworker, was supposed to arrive soon after she arrived at the airport. He flew in from the other side of the world to provide a helping hand. Riley didn't only keep his connection with his colleague's wife alive, he also had the nerve to contact her and another employee about supporting him with his cross-country relocation plans. Riley had an experience with a lady who was traveling in a caravan with him. In order to assist Riley, Riley's colleague went out on his own to assist him, entirely unaware that Riley had been his wife for a few months prior to being caught. After that, everyone gathered in front of me, behaving as if everything was wonderful and was constantly improving upon itself. It turns out that Riley's mother is friends with the wife of a colleague, and she is entirely oblivious of what is going on. I, too, didn't say anything at the time. In general, I would want to inform someone that they had been dumped, and I would want the same courtesy if I were in their shoes. Although I considered saying anything, I decided against it, since doing so might jeopardize my friendships with Riley, Josh, Julian, and everyone else I know in this state. As a result, I elected not to say anything. Julian would not abandon me because it is the correct thing to do, but because of their close proximity, it would produce a great deal of friction between the three of them. The boys would prevent Julian from seeing me, among other things. More than a month has gone, and I have yet to be able to communicate with coworker via any methods available. In the meantime, I'll be powerless until I put on my metaphorical FBI hat and conduct a thorough investigation into the situation. This brings me to the heart of my inquiry. Is it possible for me to get an AITA for failing to tell my coworker? The fact that ITA did not notify him that he was in town might have contributed to the situation. Please feel free to give more information in the comments. I'm only trying to keep the article around 3,000 characters in length. As a point of clarification, I am not worried with Julian's acceptance of adultery or other sorts of adultery in general. Since Julian has made it plain that he is shocked by what has occurred, Riley's effect on our relationship has been mitigated to some extent.